Grow or Go, Knowing When to Scale or Sell Your Business. This panel will be moderated by Brandy Flanagan. Also participating in today's session are Phillips, Wesley King, and Marredia Roquemroe.
So good morning. Welcome to Grow or Go, Knowing When to Scale or Sell Your Business. As a small business owner, I'm sure many of you have dealt with that conundrum. And so this morning we hope to help you know which direction to go in this. I'm Brandy Flanagan. I am a business advisor with the UT Tyler Longview Small Business Development Center. Panola County is one of the areas that we service. And we help you with anything concerning your business. We do business consulting and work with you one-on-one from starting your business to growing your business to fixing any issues with your business. We are not coaches. We do not motivate you and cheer you on. We get into the weeds with you and help you figure out the solutions to the problems that you're facing. So our goal in this session is to give you timely, relevant, and actionable advice on how to decide if your business should scale for growth or prepare for a sale. We'll spend about 30 minutes hearing insights from our panelists and leave at least 10 minutes for you to be able to ask questions. So let's start with quick introductions. Rather than me reading bios, I'll ask each panelist to share their name, their company, and a sentence or two about the work that they do.
Good morning. I am Marredia Roquemroe. I am a native of Carthage, Texas. I am the co-founder of AshRoq Financial, which is a finance company that I started pretty much from the ground up 10 years ago. And we've grown it into a multi-million-dollar company that expands across 6 locations. We offer consumer and business tax preparation, bookkeeping, payroll services, and a host of other services. And my journey is pretty much about staying positive, staying grounded, scaling smart, and helping other small business owners do the same.
Hello, my name is Phillips. I'm the owner of the Phillips Law Firm and an attorney here in Carthage, Texas. We primarily practice real estate, probate, estate planning, business formations, and so at the Phillips Law Firm. And then I'm also the former chairman of the Chamber of Commerce here in Panola County. So, thank you.
Good morning. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
I'm loud. I'm Wes King. I'm the co-founder and owner of the King-Aultman Group. We do railroad construction. I own a trucking business, engineering firm. We build railroad bridges across this country. So, that's me. I'm a civil engineer, and I love business. I've sold businesses, and this is what I do.
Very good. So let's start out with a very relatable topic for all three of you. Have you faced a time in your business where you've had to make the decision to either scale to be able to grow, or, hey, I've taken it as far as I can, and it's time to close up shop? And talk to us about your process through that. Whoever would like to talk first.
So I feel like I kind of ran across that recently, and it caused me to scale, and I had to scale because of the demand. So I feel like the growth in clientele, we started with 2 locations, and so we began to grow. And not only clientele we were originally based here in Carthage and Tyler. So not only clientele from these areas, but we pretty much service all 50 states. And so whenever we began to fluctuate and grow, we had to make the decision to expand to other locations, which are Jacksonville, Palestine, Henderson, Shreveport, Louisiana. And so we're now operating across those 6 locations, which has kind of leveled things out for us and allowed us to just grow. And yeah, that's about it.
Okay.
To be honest, the past 2 years, I would say, there's been a strong demand for legal services in this county in this city. And unfortunately, there are not many attorneys that are practicing in smaller towns these days. And that's great for me, but it's not necessarily great for all of you. And so I definitely feel the pressure to scale up, and doing that in a way that is responsive to my clients, making sure the quality of work is still there, but also growing the business is a balancing act. And I help other people do that in terms of scaling their business, in terms of compliance and everything, but now having to deal with it myself has given me a different perspective. So.
Okay.
There's a lot of opportunity here in Texas. We hear about growth and this constant need, especially in the construction industry, and that can be overwhelming at times. I think there's often the temptation to put yourself in a bad situation in terms of taking on too much debt so you can support the capital that's needed, these capital expenditures, buying equipment and things to grow. And so controlling that growth is maybe our biggest challenge. Yes. And choosing when to grow and when it's appropriate oftentimes is forced upon you. And you just have to maintain your moral compass. If you went into this business and I made a commitment to myself that I wasn't going to leverage my businesses or come in and grow them through some sort of outside financing, you got to stick to your guns, even when people want more of your product. And if you put out a good product, they're going to keep asking for it. But sometimes the answer is no.
Yeah. And I will add some just to the flip side of that, because all of you have chose to grow and scale. I always, when I work with clients, I tell them, how do you know when you need to sell? It's when you've done as much as you can for that company, and you know that you yourself cannot take it any further. So you owe it to that business to do your due diligence, to make sure that you get everything that you can from that business to be able to sell it. Don't just sell off your assets. To do a proper business valuation and be able to get what you need, but then also to hand off that business to the next generation who can take it to the next level. So let's start here. Actually, I'm going to move past that one. So Marredia, from your experience, what key financial indicators tell you a business is ready to scale, and when those same numbers might suggest selling instead?
For me, just for me personally, with us, we've been in business for 10 years, going on 11 years, and there are many times where we have thought about scaling up, or we've thought about expanding, and we went to the books and we went to the numbers, and it just didn't make sense. And so I feel like the key is, like he was saying, keeping your debt as low as possible. Originally, I just honestly started getting into working capital. For me, everything was in-house, and so it was from the profit that the company actually made. And so for me, it's definitely looking at the numbers and making sure that you have a strong financial core before you look into scaling up or expanding.
And so on the flip side of that, how would you tell a company that, hey, the numbers are showing you should sell?
Honestly, I would look into selling when the profits are good. So when the profits are doing really well and the company's in good standing, that's when you want to sell. And you may have other reasons for selling, like you're just burnt out or you don't have interest in it anymore. So I would definitely sell when the numbers are doing great.
Okay, very good. So Wesley, you're a business owner who's had to, there's no doubt you've had to make some critical decisions at different times. Can you tell us a time in your business where you had to make a critical decision around this topic, what your biggest mistake was, and what solution that you finally came up with that actually caused you to be able to keep moving forward in your company?
Yeah, absolutely. If we want to talk about mistakes, how much time do I have? When I started this business, I'm obviously pretty young, and railroad construction is it's challenging and it's extremely risky.
Yeah.
I don't know who decided to insure us when we got this thing started, but it was extremely difficult to get this off the ground. And right off the bat, I had this constant pressure when I would see these rental invoices and things to go buy my own equipment. And, as a business owner, you can relate to the feelings of pressure and stress. And as you pay those invoices, I was sitting there going, I need to replace some of this equipment. So I went to buying, and, luckily we were making money on our projects. And some of this equipment was not the same as what I would buy today now that we're in a well-established entity. So I think in terms of growing, I allowed early on the pressure of the bills to dictate my capital purchases. And in construction, that'll kill you in the long run. And so sometimes it's better to stop, to be patient, to think about what your entity needs, and not allow kind of this outside force to take hold of your brain. And we sat down and we created a capital expenditure plan. And it's a 5-year plan, and I know between now and 2029 exactly what I'm going to purchase every year. And like clockwork, we purchased so many vehicles, we purchased so many track hoes, large trucks, cranes, all these things. And it allowed me to take the emotion out of it, especially when you have the bad weeks.
Very good. So I use the phrase, stop hustling and start being strategic, which is what you're talking about. Hustle makes us feel pressure, and we're spinning out doing a million different things, where strategy goes, hey, we're going to put plans in place that are going to help us make these decisions based on numbers and based on research. So I love that. Thank you, Wesley. Cameron, from a legal perspective, what are the top things business owners overlook when they decide to sell? And how early should they start preparing legally if selling if it's on the horizon?
I would say one of the main things is that you have to ensure that you are in compliance with taxes, with insurance, with HR problems that could arise. Before anyone wants to buy a business, anyone that knows what they're doing is going to have, a professional's review this business. And so that professional will devalue your property, your business, if it is not in compliance with all of these different things. Of course, the main things that come to mind, of course, are taxes, whether that be property taxes, of course, with the IRS. Also, of course, HR problems that could arise if you have kind of skirted the rules, or you have just haven't really built it up the way you should, especially if you're getting into that 20, 30, 40 employee type numbers. And then lastly, I'd say probably insurance. You want to make sure that your insurance is good. But all of these things are things that they're going to look at in valuing the property that they're purchasing. So.
Okay. And we recommend at the SBDC that you start looking at that 3 years out. That you make sure that you're starting to get those things in place, that you're putting in the, making sure that you're into compliance with everything. So it's not something that you want to decide on a whim and just let everything go that you've worked decades for. And so thank you. I appreciate that. So to all of you, what are the most common challenges that small businesses face when trying to scale, and how can owners avoid these traps? Anyone who would like to talk?
I feel like the most common challenge is putting systems and people into place. So for me, I feel like I struggled initially just getting out of the day-to-day operations and getting away from being an employee. So it's like I wanted to work and be the business owner to scale up, but I also wanted to be in the office every single day behind the desk, helping my favorite clients, helping my favorite people, seeing their smiling faces every day. And it comes to a point where you kind of have to choose. So there's no way that you can scale and be the business owner and still operate in the day-to-day operations. That's probably the biggest thing, just getting talented employees in and retaining them as well.
I want to second what was just said. There's a popular commandment. It's not so easy to keep. It's called "Thou shalt not covet." And as a business owner, that is so hard, especially when you see opportunities sitting in front of you, or you're driving past a golf course and you see all those guys out there that look like they're enjoying life. And the temptation comes for you to focus on the wrong things. If you're thinking about selling your business, I recently sold a sanitation company that started as a joke and turned into a legitimate entity. And, we never thought about the opportunity to retire or the opportunity to make a little bit of money or how much can I milk out of this thing. Though that type of attitude will lead you into a bad path and bad decisions. Instead, we replace that with how do we make this system easier to operate? Who can we partner with that will dispatch our driver every day so that I don't have to? How do we streamline our invoicing system? If I have to replace myself today with somebody else who's willing to spend money to buy this thing, how do I make that transition smooth? And it's never really focused on the sale. It's always focused on making a better process. And I think that becomes attractive to people as you try to make your exit strategy. But you never really think about that. You can't. It'll cause you to go crazy. So stay off the golf course.
You have anything to add, or you're good? Okay. All right, so a little bit on that. If a business is needing to scale, correct? So they've gone as far as they can currently go with how they are. They're starting to see cash flow level out. There's no increase. What in your own businesses did you decide on outsource versus keeping in-house?
I would say that, there's certain things, the longer I've ran a business, the more I realize that there are people that will do your taxes for you. There are people that have expertise in something, and you should allow them to use that expertise. And so to contract out what you can contract out, keep in-house what you can keep in-house that you're good at, that you're an expert at. But, I'm not a tax attorney. I don't want to be a tax attorney. And so you need to find someone that can do that. And so be sure to be strategic in who you contract out, things that you yourself or your business may not have expertise in, but keep in-house the things that you do have expertise in.
For me, it wasn't necessarily contracting out, but it was bringing everyone that I needed in or utilizing the people that I had and kind of teaching them the roles that I needed them to step into. So whether it's teaching one of my managers to step up and run the reports and run the payroll, or move one of our leaders over to being a regional manager where she's jumping around going from office to office rather than me getting in my car and driving around and trying to come back and get my work done and oversee the company. So instead of, outsourcing out, it was me bringing those employees in and using the people that I already had in place.
Yeah, pay attention to your overtime. Your entity needs to run a little bit lean all the time. And if you're spending a lot of money on overtime, it may be time for you to start looking at either hiring, or if that's not feasible, maybe you're in a skilled trade or it's hard to find certain folks that know what you do, then you go outsource. And then the second half to that question is always on the overhead side of things. One of the most expensive parts of running a small business is that you need payroll and you need all these things that were mentioned by our other panelists. We live in a marvelous world, and it's gotten easier even in the last 10 years to find apps that will integrate with your phone. You don't even need a laptop computer, and they will take care of a lot of those overhead expenses. Even as, as King-Aultman operates in the office, we continue to outsource third-party providers for our payroll, for our bill payments, and those systems with the technologies that we have today talk to each other, and they make it so easy. So I would never feel like you're a better entity or you finally made it, your business is finally growing just because you hired more people that are taking on all those tasks.
Okay, so talk about in your business when you came to the point of deciding to scale. Talk about that transition that had to occur where you took off the hat of small business owner that was literally doing everything in your business to more of a CEO level thinking of where you had to begin delegating. And talk about that switch, about how the difficulties with that, and then the positive that you've seen come out of that.
I feel like I'm still turning that switch off. So, where I am right now, I feel like I'm working really, really hard to come from behind the chair and, like I said, exit the day-to-day routines and, there with the company. But I have realized with putting others into place that it's given me a peace of mind, where at one point I was running into burnout and I'm like, okay, I don't feel like I can make it another day. I'm hopping over here, I'm going over here. And so I feel like it's giving up a little bit of the authority, but it's also trust. You hiring those people and trusting those people. It's your livelihood, it's your baby, and you want people that's gonna run it like you would run it and treat your customers like you would treat them. So it's about hiring those people that you can trust and that are gonna treat your mission like it's theirs.
Yeah, so, absolutely.
Second, that you definitely want to hire good people that you trust, and you want to be able to delegate appropriately, and having those conversations with those employees are paramount for you to be able to scale.
I'm not the right guy to ask for that. When we started King-Aultman Group, I went and took my contracts to the bank and got an advance on the contracts and hired 13 people and started taking on a bunch of liabilities in terms of insurance and other things. And so you step into that role really, really quickly. But since then, we've been able to hire, maybe one of the hardest things for me to do is to hire project managers, because I love these projects and I want to know what's going on these projects. And I guess Katie, our administrative assistant, can attest to this in the office as I'm going nuts over, to the penny how much stuff costs. It's hard to take your hand off the work. And so that transition for us came later when I had to start hiring project managers. And I think that only takes place when you understand the work well enough that you can teach other people. And them taking that on and doing it maybe even better than you is a good indication that you've done that at the right time. If you're hiring people and then all of a sudden you have to go behind them and do the work for them, maybe you're not ready to step into that role, and you take the onus on yourself and you get a little bit better at teaching, and then you try it again.
So what you're talking about, all three of you, is the culture, right? How do you sit here when you take the hat off of the multiple roles? How do you transfer that culture into employees, correct? All right, so let's flip to the other side. I know none of you are where you're wanting to sell your business, but a lot of times I find that business owners view selling their business as a failure, when to me it's a strategy and it's a exit that's going to come at some point, unless you're turning it over to family members and things like that. So talk a little bit to that on how selling a business is a strategic part of your plan for the business versus a failure of your business.
Well, for me, I feel like, I'm not going to say it's the ultimate goal, but you're going to eventually get to a place where you sell, like you said, or unless you're turning it over as a legacy to your children or grandchildren. And I feel that for me in this walk that I've had over the past 10 years, it's been several clients, several companies that have, reached out to buy, and I look at it as I think I kind of like it. You know what I mean? It means I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. It means I'm doing really well, and it means that I'm on their radar. So I don't see it as a bad thing when, people acquire about buying your business or you looking to go into sale.
Okay.
It's a great idea. I mean, your goal should be to create a business that's lasts beyond you, whether you're the one running it or not, and it can provide a really nice payout, especially at the end of your career for retirement and everything, where you're getting a big lump sum of money, and you just want to make sure you do your due diligence by hiring people that will price it correctly and having the connections to sell it to somebody. But there are experts that do that, and I definitely think it's a great idea if you can do that.
Can you hear me? Yeah. My dad used to tell me growing up, he said, Wes, you get into business to get out. And his advice to me when I started my business, I asked him if he could help me out, and he said, yeah, I'll give you tons of advice. I said, Dad, that's not what I'm asking for. But the check never showed up. But that was maybe one of the better pieces of advice that he gave me. And he said, just paint a picture, because once you arrive at that picture, you're going to be tempted to move past it. And so it can be a failure, maybe if you allow yourself to kind of change that goal and you do it for the wrong reasons. But when you get into business, just ask yourself, what does getting out of this thing look like, and does that business produce enough revenue that's realistic? And if not, maybe I need to adjust my goal a little bit. But I don't see it as a failure. I see it as the goal.
Yeah, great advice. All right, so you've heard enough from us. We want to hear from you now. So we are opening it up to questions from the audience. There's Brian. Okay, now we're ready. Okay.
Oh,
We're going to make Brian get his exercise in today.
yeah, I need 10,000 steps a day. So.
Okay, so this is to all the panelists and also Brandy. How would you, let's say you're not going to, your goal is not to sell your business, but to pass it down to your kids or your grandkids. How do you get out of, if you're old school and you've learned one way, but your kids have went to school and learned a different way, how do you let go of holding on to, I want it done like this, and instead of letting them kind of upgrade the company to something a little bit better or taking it to the next level?
Would one of you like to take that first?
I wouldn't mind talking about operating agreements, and that's a tool that we have in any business. And an operating agreement governs how business gets done for the organization. And bringing in a future interest holder, such as a child or a grandchild into it, or an employee that may take over, or whatever it may be, bringing them into the governing structure and using that operating agreement as a tool to slowly but surely get everyone on the same page and to adjust expectations and everything, that's a great tool. And that goes into just more generally estate planning and ensuring that whether it's a business or whether it's your investments or whatever it may be, you have a plan, and that plan needs to accompany what happens for your children, what happens for your employees, and so that's very important. So that's a great question.
Yeah, so I would say that there's a difference between company culture, right? So you're talking about it's more important that the company culture continue to go down to the legacies, because it's what has kept it in business long enough to be handed down generations, correct? So you want the culture, but I think we also have to be humble enough to know that business has far exceeded any of us that started businesses even 20 years ago. It is a different landscape. It is a different way of doing things. So cheering them on in how they choose to do the things, but making sure that the company culture stays the same. I think that balance is what, so that conversation can easily be had of, listen, here's what has allowed us to stay for this longevity. You've got to keep that rolling, but I'm excited to see the changes that you're going to bring in with how operations go, with how marketing goes, all these things that there's kind of these new avenues in. So that's what I would say. It's a mixture of the two and a balance of the two, and just making sure to hold on what is important in that business. Would anybody else like to?
Yeah, Katie, you're going to have to field some complaints on this one. This one's going to get me in trouble, but especially in this region. But your last name is not a qualification, it's an opportunity.
That's right.
And I grew up with my dad owning a business, and he has 5 children, and none of them ended up coming back into the entity and taking it over for him because he had a rule, and that rule was that you had to go out into the world, you had to establish yourself on your own 2 feet for a minimum of 5 years, and then you could interview to get back into his organization and work your way up from there. And what it created was competent children. There's doctors and engineers, and my brother's over one of the largest jails in Oregon, and that opportunity to see growth in your kids created a lot of blessings in our family. But should we need to go back into that organization, the deal from the very beginning was that you would do it competently. And it may be a little bit different at that point, but at least you're not sitting back wondering whether or not they can carry the baton and continue to find success.
Well, let's put Grandpa's teachings in all operating agreements. That's a great, that is a great one. Anyone else have a question? Yes, sir.
So my name is Pai. I'm a controls engineer and kind of have a basic knowledge of systems, but the business development is, looking at it systematically, it has steps when you want to move from one level to the next level concerning the growth. I wanted to ask, what are your, say in bullet points, what are your signals towards noticing that, hey, we are ready from going from this step of development towards the next level? Or maybe sometimes you want to go back, but what are those signals that you look into? Thank you.
Do any of y'all want to answer that?
So I would say that, first of all, you want to have clean ownership, you want to have clean records, you want to make sure before you scale up that everything as it is currently is in compliance and looks good and is solid. That means that your ownership, the legal structure that you own the business is clear and in your interest, both for tax purposes or in compliance purposes. You want to make sure that you have good estate planning to ensure if you pass away or something happens to you, someone can continue to operate the business. All of these basic things need to be done before you scale up. Once, and then it comes down to demand. If there is enough demand for the services, then it's time to scale up. But all those basic things have to be done first.
Yeah, so you definitely always lead with, is there a need? Because if there's not a need, you're dead in the water. It doesn't matter that you want to do it or that you think you should do it or any of those things. The only thing that determines it is there a need? That is number one. Number two is, do you have all the foundational pieces in line? Do you have the current team developed enough that can take and lead what you currently have while you go and pour in time to a new product or a new revenue stream or whatever it is that you're doing? And then number three is, do the numbers support that happening. So many times business owners get themselves in a mess because they just leap out there. We have wonderful gut instincts, right? That's what makes us entrepreneurs. However, I've learned after being in business for over 20 years, that gut instinct has to be backed up by the numbers and research. I'd never go just on the gut anymore, right? And so the numbers, you have to cash flow that out. You have to cash flow bringing on the additional employees, bringing on the additional cost of everything that there's going to be, and what does research say that the projected income is going to be. And that's what, if all of those things line up and you can check yes on everything, then you're ready to move forward. Okay, is there another question from the audience?
I just want to add Francis Sproul with Austin Bank, and I love the advice. You have to hire people you trust, but you also have to put systems in place to protect yourself. And your community bankers will help you with that. It's so easy to set up dual control because we as community bankers, I'm sure everybody in this room knows someone who has experienced embezzlement. It is not a fun thing to go through. Always protect yourself.
Great advice.
To say that having another thing that I think everyone should be aware is having those a creditor that you can trust, a banker that you can trust.
Absolutely.
Having those relationships are paramount for you to be able to scale. And so if you don't have a good relationship with a banker today, I would say that's one of the first things you need to do is ensure that you have a relationship with the banker, that when it's time to scale, you'll be able to do that and you'll have the capital that you need.
That's a great addition. It's, have you checked in with your team around you, right? Before you scale, did you check in with your accountant who oversees your books constantly? Have you checked in with your lender? Have you checked in with your attorney? Have you checked in with whoever's giving you consulting, whether it's through the SBDC or through private consulting? That's what your team is for, is to help you make those decisions. So great addition on that. Yes, sir.
My name is Ryan Vance with V2 Properties. I'm better known as Carrie's husband.
Yes.
My question is, how did you choose which locations, or how did you decide which locations you wanted to expand to?
I studied the areas. So I studied the areas, I did my research, also ran my clients' numbers, where they're from, where they drive from, and just kind of put those two together to figure out where it is that we needed to be. Definitely just checking out our competition and seeing what's surrounding the area before we locked in to put locations in those areas for sure.
My name is Brian Todd. I own a couple businesses, and my question's for you. You had talked about owning the business that you have and multiple businesses. I find it difficult, and I'm still working on how to scale multiple businesses at the same time. Are you relying on partnerships? Are you relying on employees? What is the best way that you've seen to do that?
Great question.
That's a great question. Yeah. You know, they say that the only ship that never sails is a partnership. And in a lot of ways, that's true. But I have been so blessed in my partnerships. Every entity that I've ever entered into has been with a partnership. And it's always been, under those circumstances, 50-50. 50% or 100% of my time is worth 100% of my partner's time and money and diligence, and having that type of attitude has allowed us to kind of focus on different things at the same time. So, you know, they say that the whole is or the how do they say that? The sum of the parts is, the whole is greater than the sum of the parts. That's what it is. That's true in partnerships if you can make it work. And in the instance of the sanitation business, my partner and I had money to invest, and our third partner had time. And we were okay with that. And so when we set up the formation of that entity, it was a third, even though there was money involved. And what that allowed me to do is to go do other things. I didn't think about that business. I took the checks to the bank, literally was my only job. And he was so grateful for that ownership off the bat that he scaled the business for us and then eventually made us an offer to buy it out. And so I think that finding value in other people is maybe the only way that you can grow multiple organizations.
Yeah, and I think that's a transition that we've seen in business probably in the last decade. Normally, consulting before, you would always tell everybody, do not take on a partner unless absolutely necessary. Now, to really be able, due to operating costs, due to time commitments, due to all of these different things, due to different skill sets, we do talk about, hey, you might really want to look at getting a partner in this, to be able to help you. And so it is a big transition that's happened in the business world. It's no longer looked at as a negative to bring on a partner. It's looked at as an asset. And so that's what you want to do, is to make sure that the partners you're bringing on are an asset to the company, or bringing something to the table that you can't do on your own. Any more questions?
I think we have time for one more question here.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Josh Story. I own Sabre Defense Technology. We're relatively new. Is there any resource that you guys had as you were growing your business to help get you more known in the community that you guys would like to talk about?
Well, to be honest, there for a while I only had a Facebook page, and I finally got a website. And so sometimes just, making sure that you have a good quality website, making sure that you have a presence on social media, sponsoring different events, getting your name out there, letting other people, other business leaders know in the community that you are a participant in this community and that you are or have tied your wagon to this community. And so, yeah.
And I'll kind of piggyback off of what he said. Definitely just social media and ads, getting out into the community. And for me, a big thing is kind of keeping clear brand messaging across the board, from your social media to your ads to your website. And sometimes that means hiring someone else in to take care of that for you. I know everyone isn't technology savvy or computer savvy. I know for us, we have a marketing specialist, and she kind of takes care of that for us, running our website and running our ads daily. And she kind of does the research with Google and, making sure that we pop up when you're typing in tax preparation in East Texas or Carthage and things like that. So it definitely may be beneficial for you to reach out to see if someone can help you with that side of things.
Yes.
Yeah, just a shout out to Carrie. The Chamber of Commerce is so effective here. I would say that the majority of my friendships that are local were either fostered at the beginning at the Chamber or an introduction from an introduction. And Carrie cares about Carthage. Man, we should say that. But she knows everybody, and she loves people, and she has developed an environment that's good for business.
Yeah.
So I would not skip past the Chamber of Commerce.
Yeah, great resource here. When I go throughout our communities, I always say, I wish I had a Carrie in every one of them, because she is fantastic. So I want to thank all of you for joining us here today. I want to thank all of the panelists here. Here on the end, Wesley King, if you'll give him a good hand clap. Cameron Phillips. And Marredia Roquemroe. Thank you for sharing your highlights, your struggles, and just being real with us today. We sincerely appreciate it. And thank you to Carrie and the Chamber, along with the Governor's Office, for bringing us together today. And I encourage you to connect with each of these individuals and us back there at the SBDC table as you continue to move forward today. Thank you.